Hey Cancer, it's your season, and there's a lot of things that happen in your season. There's a lot of things that are revealed in your season, whether it's from you or just like the general nature of how things have been going since the eclipses were in your signs. It's funny because I don't think I could have done this one before today in a way that's like so understanding of the weight in which Cancer rolls. I have Cancer in the 3rd and 4th house, so it's very helpful when communicating with other people, especially the emotional intelligence that goes into a water sign. So this is right, I'm doing this right before your season hits, and I want to put it out like right on time because I think for you, that's how you are. Whether you know it or not, you're right on time. Your intuition is so wrapped in, not just wrapped, how should I say? Your emotions are so tied in with intuition. So I think you guys, for the first and foremost, whether or not you practice this is something I think a lot of you, especially with those very front placements, very projected placements, you know things have to get done. You know things will get done. You know you have a great sense of timing. You know when to dedicate yourself. You know when to pull back. Or you're continuously, especially if you're a Cancer sun, you're really learning to fine-tune that in this lifetime. That's what happens with what I believe in our sun sign approach. There's a part of you that is very resistant to how big you can get, but it's really important for you to, especially in certain times in life. So what I was going to say is that you're so threaded, you're so woven into what is emotionally going on, and there's a lot of talk about mental health, and there will be, and I say this, and I've said this a lot to people when I've done readings for them, whether, especially if it comes up, is that we have this very strong sense of mental awareness and mental health now, and you'll start to see in the very coming time that there will be the same thing about emotions, how your emotions are really the tie of everything. And whether you're a Cancer who has struggled a lot, who is just really beginning your journey, or if you're someone who isn't, you'll notice that if you reflect in your life, you've always had it in there somewhere. You've always had this really strong sense of awareness of how what is happening in your life, the effects of what you choose and how they ripple out. And it's really funny because like the clouds are shifting in this moment, but it's a very important moment because it's where you find that security, that it comes and goes just like the waves, just like as you come in and out of people's lives, the strength in which you come in and out, the color, the way, the tone of your voice, but it's also the tone and how you show up when you do. And for the people in your life that are really close to you, you know that it's all the time. You know that it's you just as much as you need that time and space. You don't as much as most people think you do. You're able to be around others though, because what happens is when you are able to get very clear on this very general yet strong sense of yourself, you may understand that being around certain people is just as healing as not being around anybody, because you wouldn't have people, or I hope that you don't, and continue to see the people in your life that surround you, and you really want to be able to share the water without having to always be the one overextending your healing ability. And because that can become this thing that you notice, and I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. It's just that it's a usage of your services. Like, how do you want to give? How do you want to continuously give? You know that you're going to do it, and you know who's around you, what's important about that security that you feel, that emotional security that you feel especially. And this season, I think, what you've been set in motion for the past few years, you can kind of look around, and this season, I think, 2022 specifically, is one, you can recognize that you can be completely and utterly yourself and show no sense of deception. You know, sometimes, especially the cardinal signs, it's so easy and obvious to tell when they're not doing so great, or if they need a little more help, they'll actually overcompensate in areas of their life where they know their strengths play off. And I know that's like a little bit of a read, but that's what you do for others this season. You're coming up against yourself right now. You're coming up against this time in your life where you're going to create magic like you do. You're not deceiving yourself, but what you'll notice about people in your life is that they're going to be able to see in you, maybe even sometimes without you saying anything, that the shit they actually really need to see and hear, just by maybe how you're feeling, how you're looking. For those of you who are feeling great and really in yourself in this moment, I would soak in that for a while. Let things play out like you do. Make the magic like you do. Create. A lot of you, what I was really excited about, because to share a little bit more about things, I have been someone who has been wanting to put more energy into my work and my time and take a passionate creative leap as I like bounce around here. And you're someone to go so full into what you believe, and you can do that with a business sense. You can do that with a real structural mindset, especially when you're dead set on something. No one else can tell you different. You do your things well, you get it done. You have so much on your table. You have so much to create from, especially Mercury being in Gemini right now. And from Gemini season, this carries out. And what it does for you, I think more than anyone, is have you become so self-aware about these places that you can become, or you can find yourself stuck for a moment. It's not even about being stuck. It's about where you're allowing things to decay and die, and that you're no longer putting energy there, but it's been around for so long. So what you can understand about empathy, and the reason why your empathy goes a little bit deeper than others, depending on where, again, it's in your chart and where you're learning in this life. The thing is that you recognize that the cycles that we have to go through in order to maybe get out or learn from, you then understand that there will be a process. There will be this process that slowly gets smaller and smaller, and yet you still have to understand, appreciate it for what it is, accept yourself as who you are, and move on. It's like you have this moment of death for this thing that continuously comes up over time, but the more you acknowledge it and let it die and let it go and let it fade, your emotions become so accustomed to this ongoing process, and that it happens. And not saying that they don't just come out of nowhere sometimes, because they do, just like the wave, just like the current. But here's the thing about always being on time: it's always what's needed. And some people don't even think they need it, and then years later you started something that prospered into something that you could not have even imagined. And it's always why this season, more than ever, so it's associated with the summer, you're getting, what happens in places that aren't always warm. Farmers markets, I mean, those other places probably happen all year round, but it's very fertile ground. And what may come up for you, all in reverse, which is interesting. So what I think first we should take from, or maybe point out, that you have not only the desire and the strength and resilience to, if you hear noise in the background, my cat likes to play with his food as of lately. So basically what's happening is something's being completely released. You feel a release. You feel like this is a total surrender, perhaps, and you've given all that you've got to something, or you're giving all that you've got to something, and you know more than anyone, just like an artist knows, just like an athlete knows, or someone who's creating something, or designing something, putting everything you can, knowing that this is all that's within your control, right? It's just like speaking to people about issues or things forming in life, different structures, different, and where we can come to find those different emotions and those structures and those long-term habits and your family and culture, wherever that fits in for you. It is very much a part of the timing. It's very much a part of how you're growing as a person, what you're ready to acknowledge, and what you're coming to at a point in your life. And you also know what it's like to put in all that you can and that is within your control, and then you have to go and, you know, have your art show or release something out there, an album or a podcast or a video or words or this thing you've been playing with, creating with, and all of a sudden you're just like, okay, now it's not mine anymore. This is a total offering of everything. I think more than ever, you're someone who's come to a point in your life that whatever you've been through, whatever the eclipses from a few years ago that are still kind of tying into today, you're understanding something that even though we all go through it in Cancer season, you go through it too, is that this lack of control that is the divine meeting us where we are is doing something and breaking something down for you very well. It's doing it in a timely fashion. It's doing it in a way where you don't have to overextend force, overextend how you feel, overextend your time. There's some kind of victory within a cycle wrapping up for you. And as much as you want to have fun in your season, and you will also see the hard work that you've put in really come out. And for those of you who haven't, you'll really start to have to put in that work, especially if it is emotionally. If you are someone who does create something or do something creative for a living, there is a letting go of the creation. It's a letting go of everything that you have and what you've come to. Because a lot of times, and I think the water knows this best, is that when we get stuck, we get clogged. Where if you're unclogged drain who just lets everything out, knowing that this creation is just as much yours as it is who you're letting it out to, whoever your audience is. To your audience, it's just as much theirs as it is yours by the time you let it out there. If it's something for purchase, it's between that transaction that you've established your value, where they've established what they will pay for your value, what you mean to them in their life. And I think you understand that more than anyone. And just so having a conversation during your season, it's going to feel, you'll understand like how far you can go with certain people or certain aspirations that you have. You'll have a very keen sense of awareness that you are a lot more stable than maybe people perceive you to be. And now you're seeing yourself very easily in that way. Because there's not a Cancer I don't know that is, especially when you hang out with them in a certain way, they're so easily not lovable, but they're funny. They're also smart with their funny. You also realize like what they're actually made of, instead of what people decide to see when they look in the water, when they feel the water, when they're around the water. They're in the water, they're engaging with the water, they're engaging with something that's so mysterious, and it's something that you understand because you've learned to feel the water crash, you've learned to feel the water pull back and forward, and you've had all of these emotions. And I think becoming sharper in certain areas and duller in other areas over the years, depending on, again, which way the tides have pulled you from from different times, especially like 3-4 years ago. There's this wrapping up, there's an ending, but there's this really big beginning, and you begin it in a way that's a lot happier than you have in the past, or a lot more easeful. It's a mutual, not only understanding, but it's this knowing that you've come to, this decision with yourself to let the light in and show people that you're very poetic with your nature, that you're so creative and you're so attentive to the time. Like, so when as I'm doing this video, I wanted to show that through, I'm cool, but I'm calm, and I have my own style, but I like different pops of color. I don't care about having a little bit of mess or creative chaos. I like the light and the way it looks this way, so I'm gonna sit this way and I'm gonna angle it a little bit differently, but it's still gonna work. and everything's just flowing together, and it's just so easeful. This day is so beautiful, like the most beautiful end of Gemini season and entering your season where it's like still nice and 70s out. It's not too hot where I am anyway, and it's with that sense of ease where you can find yourself this month, and where you can come back to yourself this month, because people will pull on you, people will ask you for things, you know this. People will want your attention more than you're so willing to give. But I think this month it's going to be a little different for you. I think that you're going to decide to invest your energy in a certain way. You maybe you didn't realize that you was being pulled over the years, or maybe you're just more giving with that in a different way. But I think this month you're going to say no, or not be able to be so attentive to the world outside of your own and what you've been creating for a while, that you might find yourself with very natural boundaries that come up, natural tendencies to really take charge of whatever it is that you are going after. Whatever you don't have control over. If there is an actual death, I'm sorry. However, I think this is a true death of your own ego. And I know we talk about that a lot, and I'm spending a little more time because I have it, which is beautiful. And I'm glad it's for you guys, because I know that I just know how hard it is to like constantly have to get back up again and make sure the tides are going and make sure that this is happening, and regardless of what it looks like, and taking care of things. It's just that coming to, especially around the new moon, and there will be a second part on Patreon, which will be on a link below, or I put them out towards the end of the month, so you can see what it's like. You can take a look at last month and you'll see the second parts up there, and more to come, because this month is very creative, very intuitive, and you seem to pull things together out of nowhere. And I think this ending, this death of some sort, and if it is an ego death, and you are someone who is on more of a spiritual path, even if you don't like preach it or say it, but it's within what you create somehow, and it's very relative. You relate very well to others, especially when you think you're not going to, and it's that thing, and you let it out, and it's like, oh, there's so many more people that I can relate to about this. Yeah, actually, very much so. Because you still like to be cozy to an extent. Like, what you're able to handle and what that means for you. There's a strong sense of celebrating things you once, or connecting happily to things that you once didn't. It's just, there's this whole total shift happening, and you didn't think that this time would ever come, but you see how much you have actually gone with the change, gone with the waves, gone with what you really needed. And I think if you find whoever you're pulling towards you right now, it's very important that you really listen to what they're saying, not just what they're showing to you. You really listen to their vibe. More than ever, I think you're going to be even more sensitive this month, and more sensitive to any surroundings that you go into. And this ego death, if you want to call it that, is just a time in life where you even crash at your own feet. You surrender, because anything can happen this month. Things can change drastically in this season more than anything else. It gives way more than anyone wants to admit to what's to come in months ahead, and how this is already affecting the winter after that. So it's this divine belief of this timing, this connecting so much with the mystery, knowing that you never really know. You guys know that you never really actually know. But that whether you do the thing or don't do the thing, or whatever decision is you're making, there will be an outcome. And, well, if I do this and I just love doing it, or this is the thing I like to do, or this is what I'm good at and what I love to do, both, or this is where I'd like to progress in life, that something's going to happen. you're going to fail, you're not going to fail, but you're going to have some kind of outcome regardless. And then if you take the other way, it may not be as fun, but it's going to have some kind of outcome regardless. And I think you guys get more than ever the very disrupted pattern that's been happening in so many different ways, but you know that's all a part of this process. And I think you become so external to something that can become very redundant, which is what we all decide to deem important, even this. So I would say just have some fun with your creativity and the emotions that you go through this month. I would say take a look at what you really have and play what you have, but also know that more than anyone you can look around and say, I know that I don't have to be, and I'm not as attached to what I used to be. And even now I know that that might change. I know that things might shift my direction, but what I'll always know is how I feel and what it feels like to have all of these very different emotional wave-like tendencies that goes out so much farther than just my own, and that you can feel, and you kind of have like an antenna for this raw sense of what's happening, and it's how you move your body, it's how you walk in your own world and how people see you walk in that world. So I would take note in that and know that that's actually what's really important, and that you stay true to the uniqueness that you are, that you find the passion and the creation no matter what you do, and that you constantly become more of that person, and know that you really are that cool person that's laid back, and you may feel a mixture of things, but it always has to do with what's here and what's present and what's really coming, and no matter how big or small it is, and that your senses kind of go off first. So I would be very aware of that, and what is too costly this month, just understand that that's what your specific Cancer, sun, rising, or moon body can handle. That's okay. Everything needs to end, and then begin again, and then start, and continue. And I think you'll continue to see great results from that, and experience something that you're familiar with, which is loss, but also much gain. I think more than ever you're going to gain so much respect, even more for yourself, for your body, what it can handle, and for the love of what you do or who you are, what you've invested this passion in. Because you can invest money, sure. You can invest time, absolutely. And in certain things, logistically, those equations add up and you get your wanted outcome. But when you put passion into it, something that you can only have so innately with something that you just strike up a relation with, and then see it through every time, and somehow, some way, it never gets bored or boring. It might feel cozy or comfortable at some times. It may feel very uncomfortable, spiky perhaps, at others. But there's nowhere else I don't think that you would rather be. And that's what makes you so unique, and why people are so drawn to you. So just be wary of those people. I know that you like to give, but also it's always really important, more than ever, and especially in a water season, to take care of yourself. And what that means to you, that could be meaning the people around you as well, but just know your limits. It's a good month to learn, maybe, or take a look at them anyway, especially in this lighting. Okay, Cancer. We'll take a look at the second part, where we will look at the cards and go through it more. I hope you have a beautiful season. I hope you enjoy for the most part, and I hope that you say what you gotta say and do what you gotta do. See you next month.